Once upon a time, there was an idiot named Retro who ran a terrible YouTube show. One day, he met a perfect and handsome man named Kenny. That's Kenny from the B-movie. The two got into an argument over a movie, and Kenny may have gotten a little violent. As a response, Retro's evil friend, Burnham shot me, Kenny. I survived, obviously, but Burnham Watt's plan was just beginning. Like that's ever gonna happen. Alright, I read your stupid book. Can you let me out now?
Retro, the court has called you here today because you are a murderer. On the 16th of May, you violently shot Kenny in the head, as we can see from this photo. Oh, and we have evidence too. DNA, blood samples, and even one of your hats. On top of the fact that I, Burnham Edwards III, witnessed this horrible crime with my own eyes. Well guys, I don't remember killing Kenny, but on the other hand... Hey, wait, no! You killed Kenny, didn't you? It's Retro, and remember our plan. You confess, and I'll give you £6! Wow, £6? Heck yeah! Did you hear that, Your Honour? He confessed! Retro, for murdering Kenny from the B-movie, we're sentencing you to 50 miserable years in maximum security prison.
You can't do that! I need him for my crappy YouTube show!
Perhaps we can consider a different form of punishment.
I'll see that you do!
Huh? How'd I get here?
Retro, you are currently inside the Dick Ed movie studio. I really shouldn't have let you name it that. Instead of just simply putting you in jail, I'm having you kept here to review whatever movies by request, as a sort of community service.
How exactly is that community service? Why can't I do something that actually helps people instead of just working for you?
Because you literally have no talents other than reviewing movies.
Oh. Well, great. What film am I reviewing then?
The judge really likes the Shrek movies, so he's making you review those. Good day.
I love Shrek. It's one of my favourite animated films of all time, and such a masterpiece of a film cannot be done justice with simple words. To summarise, the basic story of Shrek is that a bunch of fairy tale creatures are threatened by a man named Lord Farquaad. This forces them to flee into Shrek's swamp, much to Shrek's dismay. So Shrek is forced to go on this quest to save a princess and to win back his swamp. But this movie, like onions, has a lot of layers to it, so let's discuss that. You see, Shrek was quite revolutionary because it was made just after the 90s, and in the 90s, Disney had made such films as The Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. DreamWorks was created in 1994 after all these films had been made. They were created to rival Disney because Disney was making almost all the mainstream animated films at the time. By the later half of the 1990s, CGI animated films started to be made, all of them being huge successes. There were 2 films about toys, 2 films about bugs, but only one of these was actually made by DreamWorks. The rest of them were made by Pixar. But it was the 5th fully CGI film that would change everything. Shrek seems to exist almost entirely to mock all the stupid Disney cliches. From the theme parks to the annoying sidekicks, and probably some other things too. Even Lord Farquaad was modelled after Michael Eisner, who was the CEO of Disney at the time. Best of all, where Disney has forced musical numbers, Shrek has somebody. Now that I mention it, the opening to Shrek is probably my favourite scene in the movie. The scene opens as Shrek is reading a book about Fiona for some reason. This book is intentionally similar to the opening of The Beauty and the Beast. We are fed some important exposition, and as Shrek finishes the book, this happens.
Like that's ever gonna happen. What a load Somebody.
Shrek wipes his ass with the book, perfectly setting the tone for a hilarious and great movie. Then instead of getting some dumb musical number to set the scene, we instead get Smash Mouth's All-Star, which was a very famous song at the time. And obviously the rest of the movie is just as good. Not long after that, we get to see Shrek meet Donkey and then watch their relationship strengthen. Once Shrek has rescued Fiona, we arrive at the second best scene of the movie. When Shrek and Donkey are on this ledge discussing the stars, Shrek casually says that he wants to build a wall around his swamp. Donkey asks why, desperately trying to get to the centre of Shrek's issues. That's when Shrek finally snaps. It turns out Shrek doesn't like being the ogre that everyone's scared of. Nobody likes him because nobody can look past the first layer of Shrek, that being his appearance. Donkey hears this, of course, but so does Princess Fiona. Oh, and by the way, what's interesting about Fiona is that every night she becomes an ogre, just like Shrek. Apparently she's been cursed ever since she was a kid. After what is clearly the worst part of the movie, where all the characters separate because of a forced misunderstanding, we finally get to the climax of the film. Now, if this was a traditional Disney movie, then the film would end with her breaking the curse and staying as a human and living with Shrek. But this isn't a Disney movie, so the film actually ends with her staying as an ogre permanently, but she instantly realises this isn't a problem, because this way she can be with Shrek. Going back to the point I made earlier, Shrek was very revolutionary for animated movies. It's gotten to the point where almost all non-Disney animated films take at least a little inspiration from Shrek. The sad thing is that every single film that tries to be like Shrek is just plain awful. All these terrible animated films take inspiration from Shrek's tone and comedy and suck ass because of it. My best guess is that this is because modern animation studios don't want to actually challenge their audiences. This is because they've realised they can just make meaningless trash that appeals to kids and tired parents, and people will just watch it anyway. But for Shrek to work, you have to have meaning behind the mess. The hidden layers of Shrek is the stuff I just went through. The surprisingly interesting and complex characters, the critique on modern animation, and most importantly, the moral of not conforming to what society expects you to be. It's too bad DreamWorks doesn't know how to end a movie subtly, but instead of an ending, we get a Shrek in the Swamp karaoke dance party. For some unknown reason, DreamWorks ends more than 50% of their films with a scene of everybody singing and dancing. They really don't know how to end movies, but in this film's defense, it does kind of work here.
All this and more proves that Retro did not kill Kenny.
Too late, I've already made my decision. You, my friend, should have been here 2 minutes ago.
But this video clearly shows that his accuser, Burnham Watt, killed Kenny. And later we can even see that Kenny survived.
Don't worry, I prepared for this little eventuality. Mr. Watt? Well, I'm going to have to arrest you for this, you know. Well, just out of interest, why did you do it? I actually want to know quite a lot. Oh, Your Honour, this is just a small setback in a much larger plan. Believe me, you have no idea just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Alright, I'm bored now. Guards, have him killed.
Does anybody else smell gas? Hey, where's he gone?
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Shrek 2 is even better than the first one, and it's one of the funniest animated movies ever made. And in my ever so humble opinion, it's the only Shrek sequel to ever live up to the unreachable quality of the first movie.
Retro, you have a visitor.
Wow, really? Send him in, officer.
Good afternoon, Retro.
Oh, hi Burnham Watt. Sorry, but I can't talk right now. I'm being forced to review Shrek 2. That's understandable. But with me today is the £6 I promised you. Now, if you ever want to see that money again, then you simply will let me stay here for as long as I see fit. Sure, I'd love to have some company. Whenever you're ready, we can continue the review. Movie sequels are bad, is what most people would tell you. To be entirely honest, I completely disagree. Because if a story's universe was interesting to visit the first time, then having another story with the same cast seems like a pretty good idea. Plus, let's not forget that The Terminator 2 is a sequel, and The Terminator 2 is one of the best films of all time. This misconception exists because most sequels made today fall into the same two traps. One of these traps I have decided to call the Force Awakens trap. In these sequels, they just repeat the beats of the previous film, making for a mediocre and often forgettable experience. The other trap I've called the Last Jedi trap, where a film makes such baffling story decisions that it makes the previous films seem worse because of where the story ended up going. Almost every sequel in the past few decades has made the same two mistakes over and over again. And although you might enjoy some of these films, in fact it's completely fine to do so, most people would probably agree they didn't quite live up to the originals. But Shrek 2 doesn't do any of that. It makes satisfying additions to the universe while telling its own unique story. But really think about it, this movie makes such great additions, like Far Far Away for example. It's a location added by this movie that's in every Shrek film after this one. Shrek 2 further explores magic, which for such a large concept is barely touched on in the first movie. Shrek 2 even adds Puss in Boots, who, from this movie onwards, becomes a main character. The point is, time after time, Shrek 2 succeeds at expanding its universe and making great additions to the Shrek lore.
Oh, I can't just stand here and listen to this complete drivel. Are you not even a tidbit embarrassed to be praising Shrek to this extent? For once, let's be honest with ourselves. Nostalgia aside, it's just another atrocious animated comedy in DreamWorks' line of 2000s movie messes.
Wow, I've never heard a sentence be that wrong before. Shrek 2 is much funnier than people give it credit for. Sure, it has some dirty jokes and admittedly quite a lot of pop culture references, but most of the humour comes from the character interactions. This is what some comedians call character-driven humour. Character-driven humour is when two characters are so funny and different from each other that just by listening to them talk, the situation becomes funny. Shrek and Donkey can simply talk to each other, and us, the audience, will find it funny because Shrek and Donkey are so different from each other and the actors give such a great performance. But regarding the pop culture references, while they're not hilarious by any sense of the imagination, they're alright. They're like a little time capsule of 2004, and that's great. But I think the real reason they work is because the things they chose to parody are relatively timeless. In fact, you can't even say they're dated, because people are still talking about the things they referenced even today.
Well, Retro, what story does Shrek 2 have to tell? 'Cause I can guarantee you that's terrible.
Ha! Wrong again! Shrek 2 has one of the most interesting and emotional stories ever. In fact, it's quite complicated for a children's movie. Compare this to the first movie, which is honestly quite simple. An ogre named Shrek saves a princess to win back his swamp, and along the way, he learns to become a better person and accept who he is. It's simple, yet effective. But Shrek 2 is a lot more elaborate than that. Shrek 2 reveals that Fiona was supposed to be saved by a man called Prince Charming, who's the son of the fairy godmother. The film very subtly implies that she's the one who originally cursed Fiona to be an ogre at night in the first place, so that she could rule Far Far Away. Now, in the present, Shrek and Fiona have to meet Fiona's parents, which is understandably rather awkward, because Charming was supposed to be Fiona's true love, but Shrek got in the way of that. After being insulted by Fiona's father, Shrek feels that he isn't good enough for Fiona. So, logically, he decides to steal a potion from Fairy Godmother's gigantic factory, and this potion makes him and his true love Fiona into humans. So yeah, very complicated.
Alright, Retro, it's complicated. But so what? The story isn't good enough for me just by being complicated, dumbass.
Well, yeah, but Shrek 2 is great because all this stuff happens so quickly. Shrek 2 has really fast pacing, and that's really great because it keeps the story really fresh. Are you bored of the swamp? Boom, now we're on a carriage. Are you bored of that? Now we're in Far Far Away. Now we're in a forest. Now we're in some factory. Now we're in Far Far Away again. Etc, etc, etc. What I'm trying to say here is that there's no filler in this movie. making for a fantastic viewing experience. Also, Shrek 2 is really good at expanding on Shrek's arc from the previous movie. In Shrek 1, we learn that Shrek is so insecure that he can't even see why anyone else would like him, but he eventually learns to open himself up to others. In Shrek 2, he learns to put the needs of others before his own needs, and by the end of the movie, most people have just accepted Shrek as a normal member of society. Finally, it would be a crime not to mention this, but the finale of the film, where Shrek breaks into the castle, is just a near-perfect scene. Honestly, I wouldn't change a single thing about it. It's so tense, it includes all the characters, and a remix of the song I Need a Hero plays over it. For me at least, it doesn't quite beat the sensational all-star opening of the first film, but it comes very close. But we all know it isn't a Shrek film until we get a Shrek in the Swamp karaoke dance party. And this film certainly ticks that off, it just isn't in the swamp this time. I'm aware that this video has practically devolved into a bunch of bullet points on why Shrek 2 is great, but in my defense, if I was to go into detail about every single thing that Shrek 2 does right, then this video wouldn't be out until 2022 at the earliest.
You know what, Retro? You've convinced me. Shrek 2 is pretty great after all. Wow.
Really?
No. Good morning and wake up, Retro.
Huh? What? Where am I?
Well, Retro, you are currently located inside the basement of the Dick Ed movie studio. You are to be kept here for as long as I see fit.
What? Why?
Because, Retro, I'm so frightfully unenlightened by working on your videos.
What?
In simpler words, I'm bored of working on your videos, and I'm taking over your channel.
What? Really?
Yes, Retro, I've been planning this all along. Simply kill Kenny, frame you, have you put in jail, and your show becomes mine. What I did not consider is that the judge would want you to review Shrek movies and not want you in jail.
Someone's gonna stop you, you know that?
Well, the funny thing is, I don't suppose they will.
You see, Retro, I've blown up the courthouse, killing many people, so I'm making a teeniest little gamble that no one will care if Retro, a convicted felon and unhygienic commoner, goes missing for a couple months or more.
Aw man, this sucks. Goodbye, Retro.
Burnham, what? Please don't take my show. It's basically all I got left.
Oh, Retro. I know it is. See you later, Retro. Oh, and one more thing. I've decided to pay you that £6.
Wait, seriously?
No.
Damn it, Retro! Answer the phone, you stupid twat! He must be in trouble, and there's only one man I know who can help him now.
Good news, everyone. I'm still trapped in the basement from the last episode. Burnham Watt has been kind enough to bring me food, release me from my handcuffs, and lend me a laptop. But despite the luxurious life I'm living, I can't help but think about Shrek 4, Forever After, the final chapter in the Shrek trilogy. Shrek Forever After may not be a bad movie, but it's certainly the weakest of the three canon Shrek films. I think the way I would describe it is, it has a pretty awful concept, but has very decent execution. In Shrek 4, Shrek grows tired of his family, so he asks Rumpelstiltskin, aka wannabe Farquaad, if he can make some sort of deal where he can become an ogre who everyone is scared of again. Slowly this devolves into a Wonderful Life type situation, with Shrek creating a universe in which he was never born, and where wannabe Farquaad rules the Shrek cinematic universe. Well, I have to give them this. The Shrek films really know how to execute a complicated plot in a simple and easy to understand way. Forever After really differentiates itself from the other Shrek movies by focusing a lot more on the drama and a lot less on the comedy. This is a very risky move, because Shrek has been a very comedy-focused franchise from its inception. Shrek's biting critique of the animation industry and its signature character-driven humour, despite being some of its best attributes, are almost completely abandoned in Forever After. I actually think this could have worked, but only if they committed more to the idea and scrapped the comedy altogether. Because every time this film tries to be funny, it doesn't really work. There's one particularly abysmal scene where Shrek starts singing to Donkey about friendship, and it isn't funny, and it comes off as extremely awkward. And although cringe-based comedy can work, believe me, us Brits are masters of it, it doesn't work in this situation because Shrek would never start singing randomly. It goes against everything Shrek stands for, because, in case you've forgotten, Shrek started off as a parody of the kind of Disney characters who would frequently sing about their feelings. It's almost a consistent theme of this film to misunderstand the characters of Shrek. Shrek, for example, starts the film off with the motivation that he doesn't like being someone that everyone likes and wants to go back to being the ogre that everyone hates. This is just a clear misunderstanding of his character arc from the last two movies. It makes no sense for Shrek to want to be a scary ogre in this movie when he spent the last two movies wanting society to accept him. At the end of the movie, Shrek makes everything return to normal, and only him, and maybe wannabe Farquaad, I'm not sure, it's left kinda vague, remembers what happened. Therefore, this film ends up leaving basically no impact on the franchise at all. For all we know, it could have all just been Shrek's dream, and it would have changed absolutely nothing. How come Shrek the Third is rightfully crucified for this, but Shrek Forever After does the same thing and no one cares? This is a terrible way to end the Shrek saga, because it makes it feel like Shrek's least significant adventure. Ideally, movies should give their last film the biggest impact on the franchise, so the audience is not left dissatisfied. So Shrek 4 really juxtaposes most threequels in this regard. Shrek the Third is still much worse though, hence why I ignore it, because despite all these problems I have with Forever After on a fundamental level, I feel like the film is executed really well. The direction really makes you feel the Shrek. Even though Shrek doesn't act like Shrek, he's still written as a person. In one particular scene towards the beginning, Shrek watches himself in the mirror, and without any dialogue, he looks into his eyes, wondering where it all went wrong. After a film as bad as Shrek the Third, does the world even need a misunderstood ogre anymore? Why is it that Pixar movies like WALL-E and The Incredibles are taken so seriously, yet Shrek is never seen as anything more than a jolly green joke? Back in his prime, he won an Oscar. I know people who would kill for that level of success. So what happened? What went wrong? So even though Shrek Forever After fails on, well, almost every fundamental level, its execution of its ideas almost makes up for that. Sadly, it is still the worst film I've reviewed so far. Sorry guys, I don't make the rules.
I just don't get it.
What don't you understand, sir?
If he doesn't know he's being recorded, then why is he talking to the camera?
Well, from his point of view, he's just staring at a brick wall, but it appears the isolation has made him delusional enough to speak to it as if it were a camera.
What a dumbass. You know what? I don't even like Retro. Let's leave him in there.
What? No. He's been in there for a really long time, as is.
Long time? What are you talking about? He's only been in there for 4 months.
Shut up, Kenny.
Dickhead, you came back for me!
I didn't do this for you, boy. I did this to stop my son, Burnham Watt. That bastard is trying to take over all of Alpha Corp. That's why Kenny is here. If he succeeds, every person working for the company will be out of a job, or something like that.
And I'll never get the £6 he promised me.
This is bigger than that, Retro.
But is it though? Because if I could get that £6, then I could finally have loads of money, which I've always dreamed of.
Excuse me, you're getting distracted. Now tell me, where is Burnham what?
What? You don't know?
No, I thought you'd know.
Well, he's your son.
Exactly. I don't know anything about him. Really though, any ideas?
Well, I guess he could be at the cinema, but I doubt it.
The cinema, eh? That just might be crazy enough to work.
Actually, I don't know. It's just a guess.
Too late, I'm already planning the route.
Here's a map. I even made it into a fold-out brochure. I believe Burnham Watt should start to back up because he's about to eat it! Ah, dickhead, you stupidly locked the door on your way out.
Why, yes, Kenny, I have.
Get off the road, you bloody wanker!
Yeah, you jackass!
Dickhead, can we stop running on the road? People are yelling at me.
Nonsense, boy. We're almost there. Look!
Aha! There you are, Burnham Watt.
Your reign of terror is over.
What? Is this some sort of peasant joke I'm too rich to understand?
No. Now give me back Retro's show or my friend here will beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, wait, what?
Why, yes, I think I could murder Retro, if that's what you're asking.
Hey, I didn't agree to this. But you know what? I've suffered a lot because of you, Burnham Watt. And if I harness all my built-up rage, then maybe I can...
For whatever it is worth, I did not want to do that, Retro. Regardless, Dick Ed, if you are a man of your word, you simply must hand Retro's show over to me.
Oh, Burnham Watt, you dumbass. I wasn't referring to you fighting Retro.
Oh, really? Then who? Oh, no. No, anyone but him, no!
Oh, hello there. Shrek here, and I'm ticked off. Because of people who think that just because I'm kind of a joke now, that I can't beat the crap out of another posh English lad. Are you kidding me? Us ogres can do all sorts of things. We'll make a soup from your freshly peeled skin, shave your liver, squeeze the jelly from your eyes. Actually, it's quite good on toast.
Back, beast! I'm warning you.
Alright, 2 things, okay? Shut up. Now, dickhead,
Yes?
be a good lad and put the tape in.
Reputation, living in the past, it's a new generation. A guy can do what he wants to do.
Hey, step away from that window.
And I don't give a damn about my bad reputation. Oh no, not me.
Well, looks like that's the end of Burnham Watt. No, he's not dead. But after a fall like that, I bet he wish he was, am I right?
I think all we need now is a Shrek in the Swamp karaoke dance party.
Well, I thought love was only true in fairy tales.
Hey, wait, where's that Retro guy? He looks pretty injured, is he okay?
Oh, who cares? I've already saved his ass once today, and I'll be damned before I do it again.
Disappointment haunted all my dreams. But then I saw her face, and I'm a believer. Without a trace, doubt in my mind. Well, I'm in love. Ooh, I'm a believer, and I couldn't leave her if I tried. Well, I thought love was more and less a given thing. Seems the more that I gave, the less I got. Hey! What's the use of trying when all you get is pain? When I wanted sunshine, I got rain. But then I saw her face, and I'm a believer without a trace.
You think I don't see what you're doing here?
Kenny, my boy, it's simple. I can't become CEO of Alpha Corp until you're out of the picture.
You know, I've just about had it with your little mind games.
That's it. I'm letting in the bees.
Wait! Stop!